Hey y'all, it's me again, Joey.
Well, ready to let them loose?
Yep, that's it. Let's see if they make us run.
Oh,
Probably so.
yeah, that one tried to get after him, but other than that, what can you expect? I mean, can you blame them? Oh yeah, they're getting after us now. Go, Joey, go!
Hey man!
Hey, man, buddy. I'm gonna get in the truck. You gotta go back and get your camera.
But also, just get as many as you can off the one next to it. Get out.
You gotta move away.
Do that side again. Y'all ready? Let's get started. Well, hello everybody. Hope everybody over there in the chat's doing good tonight. Mr. JW, Tom, Melissa, how y'all doing?
Doing a lot better.
A lot better.
I
was better, but I got over it.
I have to say that introduction that you have there on before the live stream starts, Joey. I can't help but each time I'm kind of chuckling in the background watching it when you and Mike actually pull the entrance out of that hive. I'm like, well, you think they're going to get after us? And then about 5 seconds later, it's like, yep, you can hear you laughing like you're just looking to get in trouble. And Mike's, I feel like he's in the background swatting, tucking his head and running around.
Actually, he has another part of that video, and I keep forgetting to try to get it from him. But he's got me getting out of there pretty much. But I was trying to adjust that camera, and the longer I stayed there, the harder they were hitting me.
It just keeps you humble, right?
Yep, it sure does. It was fun. It was funny too.
I had a well, not quite the experience that you had there on the video, but Nate Biggs from here in St. Louis and Matt with Sandy Valley came out to my shop here later this afternoon, not that long ago. And he was bringing some stuff out, and we all just kind of met up there. And there's a few hives that I have that are sitting in the back behind my containers back there. Matter of fact, it was when I sent you all that picture. And I said, yeah, I don't think this colony has any bees in it anymore. And I popped the top and I'm like, holy cow, there's all kinds of bees in here. I'm like, oh, well, I guess they did all right. I didn't really see much flight coming out of it. Well, then Matt goes, oh, that's a perfect candidate to put some of that fondant he made it on them. He goes, I'll go get a couple of bags. I'm like, all right. So we went there and got it. And I'm like, I said, dare I go ahead and open the top up and stuff that bag in there? I'm like, they're probably going to come off at us. I'm like, you guys ready? So I cinched my hoodie up on my head. And I'm like, well, we might take some stings here, fellas. But we ended up faring okay. We were ready to take on the challenge, though.
Yeah. I hope to be getting in a few beehives here for long. Today, I wouldn't be able to stand it too long. If I wasn't already busy doing something else today, I'd have probably peeked in a couple of beehives today. It is a beautiful day here. It's a beautiful night right now. Just a little bit of sun, a moon up there, a little piece of moon lit up and stars shining. Temperature is just right. I don't know what it is, but it's just been a beautiful day.
Kind of feels like spring, maybe.
Yeah, it kind of does. Does.
I felt that
we're
way.
supposed to have 60s here tomorrow and 70, almost 70 Monday, what they're talking.
Yeah,
I may have to do something.
Yeah.
I went through all my local yard yesterday and OAV'd everything, finished that up again, and put on some feed today. I'll give Tom's fondant to some true test. I got a couple of 3 Apple hides that I had in the top of them. I had that pollen patties with the apis in it, and they hadn't touched it, so I jerked them out and throwed it away and put some mats fondant in there, and let's see if they come up through there to it or not. There's bees in there, but they're not coming up into them feeders and eating any at all of that
Huh.
the pollen patty.
I've been seeing a little pollen coming in. Not a whole lot, but just a little bit coming in on the bigger hives anyway.
What do you think that is from Joey? You have any idea?
I don't know.
Yeah.
I hadn't even really looked at the woods to see what might be happening out there this week at all.
Well, I don't know what's funny. You laughing at me, Melissa? I'm highly upset if you are.
No.
Well, we weren't, but if it makes you upset, then the answer is yes.
Well,
I was just reading the chat. Melissa's already thrown me under the bus, and I haven't bothered anybody today, Joey. I mean, seriously, I've been good. I really didn't want to go to the grocery store today, and I asked her, I said,
You never went to the grocery store. It's like pulling
okay,
teeth.
guys that are in the audience here, who actually wants to go to the grocery store? I mean, it's not like it's filled with a bunch of people that you really want to hang out with. You're going to Walmart. And no offense to people, but I'm just saying.
You think I want to go?
Well, I mean, it's not really in my job position.
Oh, guys, we're gonna have to log off now.
Okay, first let me just say, sometimes I don't mind going to the grocery store, but if I'm working on something here at home, I almost have to sneak off to town to go get a part at AutoZone or O'Reilly's or wherever I'm going to get whatever I'm working on, hardware store, because if I say I'm going to town, I got to go get a part to get this fixed. Something all broke down. Can you stop by the dollar store? And if they don't have it there, go and
Mm-hmm.
I can say that because my wife is watching TV. I don't know what you're gonna be able to do.
Yeah, I hear you, Joey. I know exactly what you're saying, man. I always tell Melissa I'm going to the shop, which is only 5 minutes down the road, and I'll hang out down there and go do what I want to do.
Your
Yeah.
earmuffs didn't work.
I was about to say something before we all got off on that. Now I don't even know what it was. I rode with Mike Berry yesterday, taking a little trip. I guess some of y'all know that, but we went over there to southeast Alabama, over there with Bruce to meet up with a bunch of people over there and get some hive bodies. I got hive bodies and lids and bottoms. A couple more went to get other things too. But it was a good trip. We stayed over there, ended up eating last night, and left. And I walked back in my door this morning around 4:00 this morning. Took me a couple hours nap and got back up and went and helped Mike unload the trailer. So it's been a busy couple of days around here.
Did you guys post any? So the only picture that I had seen come out of that was Greg Burns sent me a picture of Mike. I don't know where you guys are at. I'm assuming maybe did you all go to eat somewhere maybe or go sit down somewhere?
Yeah, we went to eat Mexican, but I can't remember the name of the place.
Well, Greg sent me a picture of Mike, and Mike's got like a picture like this where he's pointing to his shirt, and it was one of the blue Via Honeybee shirts that we had given out at Nabi. And I'm like, oh, that's nice. That's the one thing I've seen. And I watched your video today, Joey, of the hive top for the vacuum thing that you showed up JW and I when we were down there in your neck of the woods.
Yeah.
You did the video on that. That turned out really nice.
I think I'm going to like that thing.
Yeah.
I've got several comments on it, but I hadn't had a chance to. I read them kind of briefly, read over them, but I hadn't had a chance to respond to anybody. But
yeah, I just watched it not too long ago.
It's going to work out pretty good.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, I thought about when I had seen it down at your place a couple weeks back. I thought about just going ahead and building me one here. I need to finish some things up myself. Hopefully, after this workshop's up, that'll give me a little more free time to. Oh, you actually got paint on it.
I did get me a coat of paint on the thing.
Yes, you did.
I wish I'd have done it before I videoed it.
Hey, Melissa's asking what that's about.
What
should
is
I tell her to watch a video?
Yeah, watch a video and.
All right.
Gotta watch it.
Nah, seriously, I call it adapter. You can put on the box and put the Everything Bee Vac
Okay.
down in it and transfer the bees or let them transfer themselves.
I call them portable one-seaters.
I need to put a cover on it, don't I?
Hey, not if you're the only one using it, you don't.
Huh?
I'm gonna say hey to everybody over there in the chat again. I hadn't been typing anything over there. It's going by pretty fast.
It is.
We have 76 people in here. There's Tony.
We can do a commercial break.
Yeah, that'd be good, Tony. I think you'd probably sell some.
Yeah, so they could too.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And another thing I didn't mention, there's enough room in this space right here that if you were going to put the bucket on top, you could loosen that screen. If you didn't want bees flying everywhere, just loosen the screen. And like Tony has mentioned before, just kind of pop that bucket down and that screen could fall out.
Yeah.
And go down in there.
Yeah, absolutely.
And it wouldn't be in the way.
I much prefer just shaking the bees out very vigorously and waiting to see how angry they are and coming after me.
Them little boogers can hang on to that chicken wire.
They can, man.
And that bucket.
A lot of times I'll have Tom shake them out because I just can't shake it hard enough to get them off that screen in there.
No, it's not why you do it.
That's the story I'm going with.
I guess it's got something to do with the texture of that bucket, because for years I used the white bucket on the end of the pole to catch the bees and dump them in a box. And I never had that trouble making them turn loose aside that bucket.
Yeah.
I guess it's a combination of the wire and the.
Yeah, that's that wire, I think. But
they always get hung up in that felt around the top edge of it where that screen goes in, It's about that, I don't know, what is that, about a 2.5 inch rim of felt around the top of it.
Tony says it's
where that screen goes in. Those bees always like to get hung up in that felt,
What'd Tony say?
He said he thinks it's the wire. He says it's the wire.
Yeah.
I think the wire is necessary. That was a good addition that Tony put in there, because I've actually had that bucket almost, I'm not going to say completely full, but it allows them to have a little bit of I'll say quote unquote breathing room inside there, especially when you're vacuuming for more than just a few minutes. If you're vacuuming for a couple of hours and trying to keep them as cool as possible, I think he did well by putting that wire or whatever, because those bees will hang on to that and you can't even see that wire inside there.
Yeah. Said he does it upside down. That's actually, I got to thinking about it. My old vac, that's the way it's designed. If I'm doing a removal and I got the brood all cut out and put in a box, once I'm through vacuuming all the bees, my brood goes on the top, and I pull the screen out just a couple of inches. It don't have to come all the way out. Just pull it out a couple of inches, and those bees can walk all the way up.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that was a good idea. I like how you made that point in the video, because my first thought was flip it upside down and then walk away from it, or maybe even give it a good tap to get a bulk of them started, because once they start walking down those frames, they'll just continue. But then you showed it the opposite way, and I'm like, whoa, and maybe Tony points that out in this video too, because I thought maybe he had a description or something like that before when he was, talking about that, because he had a different type of adapter on there too. So great point.
Yeah. See what Rodney's saying. You can transfer from bucket to bucket if you get too many. Yeah. And one by putting the short hose. Oh, okay. Between them and move over to the power head. You need to do a video on that one.
Hey Joey, do you have the setup where you have a couple of buckets, or do you just have the setup where it has one bucket?
I've just got the one right now.
Yeah, I think, is that what I have, or do I have the second bucket now? I can't remember.
I think with the newest one you bought, it came with the second bucket.
Okay, because I bought a couple of them from him. I think the one that I have now, which has the largest battery capacity, don't quote me.
The battery's hot.
You get stung? You all right
It
there?
burnt me. It was hot.
Not even any bees in here.
I wasn't expecting it to be that hot when I
Hey,
touched
do
it.
this. Do the tongue thing too.
I'll be right back. I'm going to get my bat.
Oh gosh. Now you made me lose my train of thought.
2 buckets.
Yeah, 2 buckets.
2 buckets.
Because I'll tell you, I've actually fit 10 pounds, and I wouldn't recommend this, but I have fit 10 pounds of bees in one of those buckets. Now, I will say I always try to be very conscious of keeping airflow inside there, for one, and for two, when we actually get in the truck to go back to the bee yard after vacuuming for however long that could have been, I actually take the bucket head off, but I obviously leave the screen in there, right? And I tip it up in my truck and I set it against my back seat and on my center console, and I turn 2 vents, because it's usually sometime in the summer, spring, whatever. I take 2 vents and I turn them into that bucket, so cold air from the AC is blowing into the bucket itself.
And we usually spritz some water on them too.
And I usually do a couple times where I'll take a little bit of spritzer and I will spritz water on the top of them just to keep them hydrated too. And then I've had great success with doing it. I've almost never lost any bees inside a bucket. I'll tell you, probably one of the biggest things I would point out with that too, actually, is I don't keep that bucket in any kind of sunlight. It's always in the shade, or I put something around it to shade it, or something behind it to shade it.
That bucket was heavy though. Man.
Tony, that's the most I've ever done. And I'm telling you, I feel like I was pushing the envelope and I'll tell you, it was exactly 10 pounds, because I weighed it with the fish scale and then weighed the bucket dry by itself. And I was literally like, I think 0.1 or 0.2 below 10 pounds on it. But man, I felt like I was pushing the envelope on that. But hey, if you guys have tried it and it works, that's awesome.
That's a lot of bees.
That is definitely a lot of bees.
It filled up like
Southern Russell.
I feel like.
Hey, Southern Russell.
What's that?
I said Southern Russell. Hey.
You might be quiet there.
Do you have the new design with the screen bottom? I don't think, does yours have the screen bottom? I think yours.
So mine doesn't. Mine, I think Tony redesigned that. I think, and then on the second bucket, and I think he's in here. He can correct me. But then maybe the newest design he had the bucket had the extra screen in it. So that one I don't have, but all in all, I think the one that I've got works pretty well.
I don't know yet, Brian. I'm kind of thinking about maybe trying a couple, but I'm not sure if I want to go there yet. I got to get that whole routine in my head right to do it. And since we talked about it last, I hadn't even went and watched any videos on the demery.
I feel like you might be saving on equipment.
Tony?
You don't have to have as much equipment, but it's more time consuming, I feel like, to do that demery method, because you got to move boxes a few different times.
Yeah, I don't like going in a beehive no more than I have to.
Mm-hmm.
What's up, Tony?
Joey,
Hey, you look comfortable in that chair, Tony.
I'm relaxing.
Good for you.
Oh, thanks. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
We can hear you.
Okay. Yeah, it was a day of feeding bees, getting ready for springtime.
Yeah.
We're kind of all in that position, right? We're all kind of waiting out the last few minutes. Although you're down there in Texas, though, so you're probably a little bit warmer than we are. Well, than me, Melissa, and JW anyway.
Yeah. It's,
Yeah,
it's about
actually,
to
this
be
breed
ready,
was supposed to
set,
start
go.
in the 80s.
80s.
80s. Ooh.
Yeah, I thought I'd come on and join, and while we're talking about the
That's great.
vacuum and
I'm
the
glad you
buckets,
did.
and happy to answer any
My
questions.
mixer just turned on. Can y'all hear it through this mic?
No.
Okay.
I can't hear it.
I just had to turn everybody up because it's kind of noisy.
What?
Yeah, that's what I said.
Is it your creamed honey mixer? Is that what it is? Kicked
Yeah.
on?
Yeah. I actually usually always go like 3 days,
Mm-hmm.
maybe 4, and then jar it. I started this one Sunday and it's still going.
Joey, my last batch was in there for over 2 months.
Oh, okay.
And it was
All right.
fine.
Now, if y'all got any questions about the Everything Bee Vac, now is the time to be asking. And Mr. Tony can answer your question.
So we have the what is it called? The other one. What's the other Bee Vac called?
Oh, the Colorado Bee Vac.
We have the Colorado one, and then we have Tony's Bee Vac also. And pretty much since he's gotten Tony's, that other one hasn't come out.
I think I've used it once.
Well, not only that, but you're on what, your second or third version of Tony's Bee Vac?
Oh, just the second one.
The second one?
Yeah. The last
the
one I
second
got.
one, then you upgraded or something like that. I thought.
I don't think
No?
so. The one that I have that you produced, Tony, had the longer battery life and had the second bucket with it. I don't recall which version that is or what. You have a different series of them.
I look back, you'd gotten the Pro, which is the one with the 2 buckets, the bigger battery, and other bells and whistles and features.
Yeah.
So yeah, I say that's for my undiagnosed insane friends.
Mm-hmm. Fits. But yeah,
I'll throw a different twist at you. One fellow I know, especially when he does a large removal, and he's one of these guys. He's like Mr. Ed. He can see the queen and just grab her. And but when he does larger colonies, he'll have the queen have her caged. And at the end of the day, he'll take. Of course, he's up north where there's gentler bees, not crazy ones like down here. But he'll line up a bunch of nukes and have some caged queens and shake a few pounds into each nuke, give them a new queen, close them up, and he'll split the colonies right there on day one.
Absolutely. What's interesting is, often when we're vacuuming, we're looking for the queen, right? But there are times that you're more focused on getting the job done than specifically finding her. And there's often a lot of times I will requeen those colonies anyway. So not that I don't want to save her, but it's not always my first focus. So she'll get vacuumed up on occasion. And what's interesting is I'll be going through and I might be half, 3/4 of the way done. And I can almost tell you whenever that queen has found her way through the hose and into the vac, because the bees that start meandering around find their way to that vacuum. They'll hit the crevice where the bucket vac head seals down on it for one. And then they also hit that vent at the top. And when I see that, I'm like, pretty sure I've got the queen in there.
Say that's my built-in queen indicator. You can put a patent on that thing.
It definitely is.
Honestly, especially down here, the queens are just fast and slick, and my vision isn't what it used to be. I just stuck her straight into the vacuum and let her go into the colony. I've had very few issues with that.
Yeah.
And yeah, different styles, different folks.
It takes a lot longer when you're trying to find that queen.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
That saves a ton of time not hunting. And like as he said, you got the queen indicator.
Mm-hmm.
Mike mentions that he's wondering if a bee escape under that would be beneficial. If they're going to brood, I don't think you're gonna need it. They're gonna go to that brood and get on it. That's just my opinion.
Something I do down here is when I'm done, so I've taken the brood, I'll rubber band it onto frames. I'll put a feeder. And the mistake I always make is I put too much sugar water in there because then I pick up the box and pour it on myself. I give them some brood or some dry out cone. I've got that with the big hole underneath, and on top another piece of plywood with just a small hole with screen over it, just an air vent. And take out the inner basket, put this box on top, and the bees are going to climb up. I'll leave that in a shady spot for usually 2 days. And the problem here in Texas is they're mostly Africanized, and they're going to abscond on you that quick. I had probably lost half, 2/3 when
Huh.
I opened them up immediately. But if I wait 2 days, then they give up, they accept this as home, and now I can give them a proper top and bottom. And then also with this method, because you always suck up leaves and wood chips and debris, all that stays in the bottom of the bucket, you don't dump it into the hive body.
Mhm.
So, I thought with that.
Yeah, I try to do my best not to suck any debris in there. I feel like that could be like a almost like a missile coming into the down the hose and into the bucket. The more debris that I would suck into there, So I try to minimize that to the best of my ability.
And honey too.
Yeah, honey too.
Ugh.
I've actually had to
Yeah,
before in
honey's
the past, Tony, take the hose off when I see bees getting hung up in there and rinse them out and then kind of shake it real quick and kind of do this little lasso thing to kind of evacuate some of the excess water out of there and put it back on, and it works beautifully because honestly, I think about it, I'm like, well, I'm giving the bees a little bit of a mist inside there at that point, right? So it's not going to cause any harm.
I did one removal, and it's been a few years back, but I was kind of mentoring this young guy, and he'd gotten in and cut up some honey. And literally that entire removal, my job became I had a couple hoses. Take the hose that was filled with honey, and what I do is just a garden hose, put, quarter, half gallon in the hose, slosh back and forth,
Yep.
do the same thing, the lasso,
Yep.
and go in there with switch hoses because he already got honey into the next one. And I did that for an hour,
Back
and
and
that's just
forth.
how it goes sometimes. Yeah,
And Tony's
do what you gotta do.
thought about that because the pro version comes with not one hose, but it comes with 2 hoses. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe it's a 6 foot and a 10 foot.
7 and a 10. Yep.
7 and a 10. I was close.
And 90%, 95% of the time, 7 foot's all you need.
Mm-hmm.
But every once in a while, that extra couple of feet matters.
It does. Yeah,
Yeah.
Oh,
that's true.
if I can throw some a little bit of humor and politics mixed, I had a thought earlier today. Because keep in mind, I'm in Central Texas. All of my I've got 200 hives. They're all from removals, and they're mostly all Africanized. So they're a little defensive. Um, and a lot of people don't really want to buy defensive bees like that. I'd prefer them myself, but that's okay. But I thought of a great marketing scheme on how I should sell my bees this year. I'm going to market them as Trump bees. They're hot. They're spicy. They perform. They don't take no BS. And when you give it to them, they give it to you twice as hard back. And
Literally.
they're great producers.
Yeah, that's awesome.
That's hilarious.
I love it.
So that's my marketing scheme for the year is Trump bees.
Go
I need
America.
to trademark that.
Oh, that's hilarious.
What's the name of your website? It's All My Bees.
Allmybees.com.
Yeah, allmybees.com.
Yep. Thank you, Joyce.
You won't be disappointed if you order. I can tell you that.
I know. I don't know why I waited so long.
I've seen other bee vacs out there, and I've used a couple other ones. One of them was, and Tony, you might know what brand this was, and I actually copied one. So
It
they
was the
actually
original
had,
Brushy Mountain one.
was it?
Yeah.
So basically, they had this basket, this wooden top and bottom with
Yes.
a handle on it, with the screen on the side. And you basically put that inside the bucket. You'd use the bucket as your
Had a flapper.
pressurizer. Yep, had the flapper. So you couldn't, and that was on. Let me think. That might have been a 7-gallon bucket too. if I remember right, because I think a 5-gallon it was too small for, but I could be wrong. But you could only utilize a smaller cavity, and you'd have to take that out and put another one in, which worked. It wasn't perfect. It had its flaws. I feel like the death rate was a little higher in there, smaller capacity.
Well, it was still corded too.
Yeah, that was still a corded version because it had the bucket top, which I didn't like. That always hangs you up, particularly if you're on a ladder or in a difficult position, things like that. And then I actually copied that and made my own, and then had it for a little while. Then you bought me the Colorado, and I liked it. It worked well, but you can't use that in every cutout because unless you can have a 10-frame box with a big vacuum head, which is bulky and semi-heavy, in an odd spot, on top of a roof, or just, you can imagine where you'll be collecting bees from. It can be difficult.
We had to use that thing inside of an attic in June.
Oh my gosh, it was a nightmare.
And we had to crawl like to the very back side of the house. Yeah, May.
It was May.
We had to crawl through this tiny scuttle hole with this huge box and all the equipment to the opposite side of the roof. It was horrible.
Luckily, it was overcast. I got there at 5 o'clock in the morning because I told the customer, I said, it was already like at the end of May. So when you get sun beating on the roof and it's even 80 degrees outside, inside the house or under the roof line in the attic area is 100 degrees. And then
at least
I told the lady, I said, okay, this shouldn't be that big of a difficult removal. I said, logistics getting in the attic and across there sucks. But once I get up in there and get started, should be okay. So I told her, I said, but here's the deal. I'm like, I'll be here at 5 a.m. And I said, if that sun comes out and it gets too hot, I said, I'm gone. And luckily it stayed cloudy until about noon. I had everything about wrapped up at 11 a.m. and had to go back. And I left one piece of comb in there, went to lunch right down the road, came back, and the clouds broke. The sun came out and it got so hot up there. I went up there and I vacuumed. It took me about 15 more minutes to finish up the space, got the comb out, and everything worked out well. But I tell you what, that vacuum in that attic space, dragging it in there, oh, that sucked. The Colorado one was just too bulky for that type of cutout. And yeah, so that's probably why I haven't used it since. It
was a bad experience.
I have nightmares.
I have a theory related to that. Jeff Horshoff, Mr. Ed, for the longest time, he had his own kind of homemade version of the Colorado.
Right.
And he loved it, and it did. It performed really well. But, a year or so ago, he started using mine more and more and more, and almost exclusively at this point. And my theory is that what happened is he had to go do a few removals, and Good Time Charlie and Wreck-It Ralph weren't there, and he had to carry the whole thing in.
Yeah.
Put it together, carry it out by himself. And he's not getting any younger either.
Nope.
And it's like, okay, do I want to carry 50 pounds and 10 pieces, or one thing that's 10 pounds?
That you can put on your back too, right?
Yeah, it's got the backpack.
Yeah.
Yep.
The only thing, if I was going to be super critical of that and throw any kind of gripe your way, the only thing that I'd be critical of is make that thing a little bit more comfortable. But it works, right? That's the only gripe that I have.
But you need more padding. I don't ever wear it. You always wear it. So
yeah.
You need more padding back there?
If you could figure out a way to create any type of more padding on there or anything like that, that would be the only critical thing that I would probably point out with that. And
we've actually done that. We've improved the backpack straps.
Oh.
For that reason.
Okay.
Yep. And I know the first one, a few years ago, the first few times you wore it, it was just uncomfortable, and nobody liked it, including me.
Mm-hmm.
But after you kind of broke it in, it got better.
Mm-hmm.
Another thing that I joke as I get older and slightly wiser is, when I'm going up the ladder, the first time it's on my back, but I get up there, I find a nail, or I just clip it on the ladder.
That's what he does too.
I used to go up and down with it back and forth, and I realized I don't need more exercise.
So we bring carabiners or tie down straps, and he ties it down to the ladder now.
Often, if I'm working outside on the ladder and I'm just one that is kind of leaning against the structure, I'll use a standoff on the side of a building or what have you. And that leaves me, 1.5 feet off the building at the top of the ladder. So I can usually there's a couple different carabiner styles that are on top of your standoffs. And I just usually clip it right to that. And then I usually tuck my hose in behind it as I'm not using it, doing what I have to do. And then I'll grab it out. I'll start vacuuming some more and I tuck it back down and kind of keep working that way. And then she usually gets all the comb pieces handed down to her. And then she can work on everything on the ground, and I just continue to work up top, and it works out pretty well.
I thought about doing something kind of like a rifle strap and just kind of hang it over one shoulder
Yeah, you could do that
or
too.
behind the back.
Would work. I'd be
Well,
worried
I
about
hope I don't hurt
tilting.
anybody's feelings, but I hope I never need another one of any kind. No offense, Tony.
As I'm getting older, I've got some young guys I've been mentoring, and most of the referrals, I just give it to they want more bees, give it to them.
There you go.
Especially when it gets 105. In my little town of 15,000 people, I know 2 guys that are full-time removal guys.
Yeah.
And of course, they're going up to Austin and San Antonio, but they're both right here in this little town.
How many removals do they typically do in a year? Doing it full time.
You know, one guy probably did 400 last year.
Wow.
That's a lot.
Yeah.
Are they doing Africanized too, or they leave that to you?
Everything here is Africanized. Now, one of them
Oh, okay.
will probably every month or so, he'll call me up and tell me, "Hey, Tony, I just did a removal, and these are your kind of girls.
Mm.
Do you want them?"
Uh,
Sure, I'll bring them on down. I'll take them. Yeah, everything here is. But my argument is this. Oh, hang on.
Yeah, that's a good
So,
point that Gary
Gary,
brings up.
yeah, the problem with a 20-foot hose, even smooth inside, it's going to really beat up the bees tumbling for that distance. With part of the reason I made my vacuum so portable is take like up in the attic. You don't need a 20-foot hose to reach up in the attic. Just take the whole vac with you.
Mm-hmm.
I could see in a rare occasion you need more length, but that's a very rare situation.
I would say, I would probably say 7 to 8 times out of 10, I use the shorter 7-foot hose, not the 10. I try to go with the shortest one possible. The one thing I've also done is you can go to Home Depot, Lowe's, what have you, and they sell, I'm guessing it's about a 2.5-foot solid extension that you can use with a vacuum. I think it's 1.25 inches. It fits perfectly inside of your hose there. And that almost, it's very similar to that. Yeah. It necks it down just a little bit, which increases my suction power just a little bit, but I don't have to leave my suction high on the vacuum. I probably don't run it, but I'm going to say maybe 50% on there. So it really is not, I don't know. I just feel like it does better. It pulls the bees off the comb a little bit easier without having that suction power up real high. And that's what I use on mine 80% of the time.
What I was just showing you is we've started offering this. It's a clear acrylic.
Mm-hmm.
And this
Hang
one,
on.
18 inches. We also have a 24-inch.
Okay.
But this fits perfectly into the end of the hose, and especially with swarms, I'll take it, and that's what I've been playing with, so you can see some real good. I'll take it to the bottom of the swarm, and I'll go full speed on the vacuum, and yes, that will suffocate the bees, but for about 30 seconds, I can suck up probably 5,000 bees.
Okay.
And I turn the vacuum down, let them breathe, give them a minute to spread out, kick it up, get the next 5,000.
Mm-hmm.
Usually 2-3 cycles, I've got the whole swarm. And yeah, Mr. Ed was bugging me to make one of these for a couple of years, and I finally found the right material.
Okay.
So yeah, it's one of the options we offer.
I didn't realize that. The one I have, I just, like I said, got from Home Depot or Lowe's or something, and it's black. It's not clear like that, so you can't visibly see any of the bees going into it. You can't see. You have no visibility through it whatsoever. So that would be the negative side for sure.
Still, round is there's a time for every tool. The round sometimes, the flat sometimes.
Yeah.
That's true right there.
Yep. I don't think he's talking about your vacuum, Tony.
No,
Oh,
somebody in the chat,
I-
I think, had mentioned something.
okay. Yeah, the bees do not make turns. And another thing you get all the time, the question, and I've actually had people modify the buckets because they want a soft landing pad for when the bees get into the bucket for where they hit to be, like a giant cushion.
Mm-hmm.
And something I've explained to people, thousands of times is your first 20 bees that might be true. The next 19,980 are going to hit the bees that came in before them.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So that they're their own landing pads.
Well, and I don't try to vacuum bees at full power unless I need to remove a clog or hit something stubborn, or like you're saying, to do a quick vacuum of maybe a swarm of something. I'm usually trying to go the least amount of power that I can possibly use, but also being efficient at the same time, if that makes sense.
Yes. Yeah, and that's the right idea. The lower so you can set the pressure, the gentler it is on the bees.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where that speed control is worth its weight in gold.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I use the speed control all the time, constantly adjusting a little bit as I need to. And then usually if I need to just move air through the bucket as I need to take a break or something of that nature, I turn it down to just a low, not completely at the lowest setting, but just a low hum in there, and let it kind of generate some air movement through there where the bees can kind of rest just a little bit. And like you said, spread out inside the bucket seems to help.
You'll get a chuckle out of this. So my very first version, what I call Gen 1, I didn't have a gate valve. I just had the hose adapter. And one time I was going home, and I don't know if the hose came off of it or what happened, but I probably had 5,000 bees loose inside the truck with me.
Mm-hmm.
And that was the time I wanted to get pulled over for a speeding ticket. But it was after that when I said, you know what, a gate valve might be a good idea.
The improvements that we make to beekeeping, whether it's a tool or whether it's a process or implementing something, they're always done out of a hard lesson. I mean, it's just one of those things, I guess, that we don't make any changes to something unless it hurts a little bit, whether it's a few stings or whatever that might be,
Yeah.
Rodney sent Lee this picture. I don't know if I can make it bigger or not.
I see a queen clip up there, but I bet that queen's in the vacuum, judging by
what I was
where
thinking.
You see how they gathered there? That's
Yeah.
the telltale sign right there.
Oh, yeah.
She's in the can.
They'll even
Then
gather. So where Tony has that gasket on the upper side, he also has one on the inside of the lip there. So right where he has the little cursor pointed out. A lot of times I'll see bees right there, right there at the edge of it. There might be a little bit of leakage right there coming out of the bucket, and I see them at that point too.
Yep.
Yeah.
A lot of times I even see them over by the speed dial.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know why, but they go over there. I guess.
Yeah.
I guess that
Well, there's a
hole
little bit of a hole around those holes.
Yeah.
So those air's coming out that way too.
Yeah.
By the way, one thing this picture shows, a lot of people don't know this. You see that white gasket as you're looking at it from the top?
Mm-hmm.
There's a second one on the inside that's actually your gasket seal.
Yeah.
And so you've got a spare. If you ever mess up that bottom gasket, you've got a spare one on top.
Yeah.
Because, one of my favorite jokes is there's only one career harder on their equipment than beekeepers doing removals, and that's suicide bombers.
Oh boy.
So
Yep,
take a,
I agree there.
take a guess of how many of my customers have accidentally, and these are the ones that have admitted it to me, how many have run over their own vacuum?
Oh no.
Oh boy. Well, I'm not one of those guys.
Not yet.
Not yet.
Not yet.
6 guys have admitted to it.
Oh boy.
And not just
So
guys,
how do you
there's
run
one lady
over
in there too.
So I have this rule, Tony. So I have owned a landscaping
Thank
company
you,
for
Lee.
25 years. Okay. And this is one of those lessons that was learned the hard way. Inevitably, when you work out of a truck or a trailer, let's say you're loading or unloading materials out of a trailer, truck, whatever, right? And what'll happen is guys will lean tools against the vehicle. Well, the guy who leaned the tool up against the truck is probably not the guy that needs to move the truck out of a customer's way or to reposition or to go get new materials. And inevitably, that neither one of those two guys communicate well, right? Because that's just how things work. So when you have a couple tools get broken, destroyed, or hit, now mine haven't been an Everything Bee Vac. There have been a couple other things that have been hit or run over or damaged. After that, I explicitly explain to anybody that comes on to the crew that's new, you don't stack any tools in, around, front, behind, the sides of the truck. Always put them up in the yard or back on the truck itself to mitigate any of these disasters. So therefore, you don't run over something that's not there. So you don't put it next to the truck. You put it up in the customer's yard or out of the way of a moving vehicle or anywhere around that. Because if you have more than one guy and they're setting tools down, somebody's going to destroy something, right?
That's
That's
a great policy.
that's like coming out of a fast food place with a handful of burgers and fries and drinks, and you put the drink on top of the car, and when you put it there, you know you're gonna forget it. You already know this because it's already went through your brain. Like, well, now I'm thinking about it, I won't forget it. And you get in that car and pull off, and you hear it when it slides off.
Brings up a really good point indirectly. So he was talking about with the landscaping crew, you've got one guy that's not talking to another guy. In the case with the vacuums, there was only one person every time. So the guy wasn't communicating with himself, just like Joey mentioned with putting your own cup on top of the car and then forgetting it. So where I was getting to, Tom, with what you're saying, and honestly, I say it as a joke, but I think it's very, very true. When I'm out working my piece, I am always talking about what am I seeing? Oh, there's some really good brood. There's some nice stores. Oh, that's some wonky comb. I have to talk out loud because I can't tell you how many times I'll say something like, oh, that's wonky comb. And like 3 seconds later, I'm about to put the box top on and realize, oh, wait, there was a smart guy who just said there's some wonky comb. And I probably ought to do something about that.
Yeah.
So it's just, kind of talking to yourself, mentoring yourself, or just getting old and forgetful. I'll
Mhm.
take your choice of interpretations. So, if
I seen Lee dropped a comment earlier. Lee, I've never hit any fences.
Me either.
Really?
Nope. Not. I've never hit one.
Not even a gate?
Nope.
Man, I'll tell you, I got a truck sitting outside that shows what a cattle gate looks like when it comes in contact with a Chevy 2500.
I didn't do it.
Right.
No.
She tried to conceal it from me too, Tony.
I did not.
Well, she did
I
because
did
she
not.
didn't outright
told
tell
you-
me.
I told you that day.
This is going to be a therapy session, Tony.
Tom, my wife's not home tonight, but years ago, so we were just sitting there talking, and it was, I don't know if we came up with the topic of, who was the last one in an accident? Could have been a couple of years. And my wife goes, "Oh, it was when you rear-ended that guy with your I had a Chevy S10." And I looked at her and I said, "Yes, I remember rear-ending the guy with my Chevy S10." And she goes, yep, that was the last accident. And I said, and I don't have that Chevy S10 anymore. And she says, no, you don't. And I said, whatever happened to that Chevy S10?
Uh-oh.
Because she drove down the highway, slid down the embankment across a field, hit a fence, and rolled it.
Oh no.
But I was the last one in an accident.
Wow. One had to come before the other, right?
Unless there's time travel involved,
Right.
maybe.
We'll do some deduction here. It would seem that the embankment issue would have had to follow the other. I mean,
There's logic, and yeah. See, and I
Yeah.
can say this because my wife is, probably 400 miles away.
Oh yeah.
So, she
Yeah.
doesn't know
And
about this.
She doesn't know you're on here either, right? So she's not going to be looking for it.
Nope.
Hey, Joey,
Yeah,
I just got. Go ahead,
she doesn't do any bee stuff.
Joey. I just got sent a picture. Is it okay if I show it up here real quick?
Yeah.
All right, let me see if I can. All right. I'm not sure why I'm sharing this picture. It was just sent to me. Can you share it to the screen? You have to hit the share to screen, I think. It's not like
Can you
Oh,
see it
man.
in the background?
Yeah, you have to hit.
Who said that? JW?
Yeah.
I ran onto that guy today
Oh,
out in the bee yard. You guys said there's not such a thing, but
oh yeah. Okay.
Oh,
I've got another picture of him. I've found another one today. But
That's probably the best picture I've ever seen of a Bigfoot.
with the
Well, I
big
didn't-
nose.
Hold on, let's go back to that picture for a second, because if you look in the background, there's some pretty tall looking, looks like some sort of pines maybe back there. I didn't realize you have anything quite that tall in your area.
Oh, I've got a lot of pines and tall pines in my area.
You do,
40
huh?
footers.
Huh.
But
Yeah.
I've got a story to tell you after you guys get after a while. I've got a short story long I want to tell after a while about happenings today.
We better record this.
Yep.
Does everybody know what tomorrow is? Tomorrow, February 2nd? You know what
Well,
February 2nd
I know
is?
what it is. It's 6 days before the EMBA workshop.
No.
Where
Well,
you
I
could
walked
have a
into
chance
that
to
one,
win
so
these. Look at those, Joey. Joey, come on up. You can get these, or you can get some short ones. I mean, there's all kinds of stuff. I don't even know why they're upstairs right now, but they are.
What is tomorrow, JW?
Tomorrow is Groundhog Day.
Oh.
Oh.
Early spring or not? What do we think?
It don't look good for the early ones.
Yeah, I don't think so either. I think we're going to get a cold snap here in a couple weeks. That's the chatter on the news with the news guys anyway.
But I've got a story, and I don't want to interrupt your bee vac conversation. When you get on with that, I've got a story that I happened to me today, and it's gotten trees, and I'm going to make a video of it tomorrow if I can. I'll tell you what happened.
All right. Well, we'll write it on the chalkboard so you don't forget to come in.
I don't want to interrupt your conversation there, Tony, but after we get you guys discuss all you're going to discuss, and then I got a story I'd like to tell. It has
Go
nothing
right
to
ahead.
do with these, by the way.
So,
Hey, Tony, can we postpone the BVAC thing to listen to his?
Well,
I mean, he's already
hold on.
he's
Morris
already
has a
broken up.
question. Morris has a question here.
Oh,
first.
okay. Yeah, there you go.
So Morris Homestead has a question. Do you have to have a BVAC to do a cutout? No, but it sure does make it a lot easier.
Truth right there.
A lot easier.
I've watched
I tell
JP the
people-
B-Man do them without them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I tell
It is
people if you're
possible.
doing one removal a year, it doesn't matter if you do it by hand or the best vacuum or the worst vacuum. It's just one a year. That's okay.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
Right.
It depends on what you're doing. you know, you have to justify the cost versus your time and what each one's worth to you, right? I mean, if you got JW money, you do half of one, then you go buy the vacuum. Me, I have to do 100.
I'm assuming this question is for Mr. JW.
I'm thinking so too.
No, this is God's help me, a true story, and I'm fixing to verify it tomorrow, maybe. So be sure and tune in to, what is my website, Melissa?
How would she know?
Soapstone Farms.
Soapstone Farms Honeybees, yeah. Tune in. I'm going to try to get it posted tomorrow if I can get it taken.
Oh my word.
I'm going to try to make a short video. So you want me to continue with the story?
Why not?
Why not?
You got us curious now. I got my finger and the pointer on the mute button.
This is nothing bad. Today, I've got a couple of those cooler cabinets like you got, Joey, like you use for a heating cabinet.
Yeah.
And Matt Rumsbottom wants them down in St. Louis, and I've got them. I had them stored out here in the shed, but I had some wheat straw, baled wheat straw stacked all around them on top of them. So I got out there this afternoon and moved the wheat straw and took the two cabinets outside so I could get to them to load them in my truck when I come to St. Louis to get sugar one of these days. And I was going to take them when I come down there to take them to Matt. So anyway, I take the straw out and I get one of the cabinets out, get it out of the way, and I take up the second cabinet, and there's a hole underneath the cabinet. And I got to digging around in that hole, and there was a bunch of loose straw off of this straw underneath that was dug underneath that cabinet. And I seen something moving, and I moved that out, spread that straw out, and there's a groundhog that's hibernated asleep underneath this cabinet. And so I didn't want to hurt him or anything, so I picked the groundhog up. Believe it or not, he never ever come out of his sleeping stupor, and moved him over, and I've got him covered up with straw. And I completely redid this, putting the straw, stacking it back in the building. I got the cabinets out and put them back in the building so I could load them. And tomorrow, I'm going to try to get a video. I'm going to wake that groundhog off like Pakistani, whatever it is, out in
Mexicali Phil.
And I'm going to try to get a video of him. But he's asleep out there. If he don't come awake between now and tomorrow, I'm going to wake him up and see if he sees the shadow.
Yeah, do this. Be certain to film this thing.
And that's a true story. So help me. I'm hoping I can get a video of it.
Okay, I have one request.
He was hibernated underneath that cabinet, had him a hole dug out, and had a bunch of straw pulled down in there, and was in a big ball. And I started to pick the ball up, and the ball started to move, and I could see him breathing, but I picked him up in my hands, and that ball of straw around him, and set him over to the side and covered him back up, and he never made a move. So
Rodney said, "Do a live."
Well, so my son's home, so I'm going to try to get him to hold the camera if he's around, and I'll try to pick up the groundhog and see if I can get a video of it. It ought to be quite interesting. He may get me up if he wakes up.
Hey, do this. Get some of that fondant that Matt makes, and then see if he'll eat it. That'll spruce him up quick.
Well, anyway, that's my story, and pardon my interruption, but I wanted to tell it. So we'll see what happens.
I actually thought
if I get the video or not, or if I get eat up, well, you may get to see me get chewed up.
I actually thought you were going to say it was like Sasquatch babies that were under there or something. That's why you showed the picture.
Maybe a Sasquatch Sasquatch egg. I don't know, but I think it's a groundhog. I didn't completely clean him up, but I'm pretty sure it's a young groundhog.
Philip wants to know if you striped it yellow.
No, I don't have a yellow stripe on him. He's still there. I'm going to try to uncover him and get a video of him and picking him up.
Here's another picture Rodney sent.
Oh wow.
That's if you see. I can't make it bigger, Lee. If you can make it bigger.
That's an open air colony.
He's removing an open air colony right there.
That's quack. That's quack. Okay, good go.
Now, where's Rodney at?
He must be in the south.
That he has an open air colony like that?
He's in South Carolina.
I was gonna say there's no way that's in the north. That's got to be somewhere south. Looks like a big log house there.
That would tear my leg, my knees, and my hips up trying to work like that.
Oh yeah.
I'd have to lay down to do this.
Yep.
The biggest removal I've ever done, and I bet it was 120,000 bees.
Oh,
It was
my
an
God.
open air colony like that on an empty mobile home. And it was right by the front door. And that open air comb, it had to be 5 feet tall. It
That's
was
insane.
just massive. And that was probably one of the neater colonies I've ever done as well. Of course, the bigger they are, the meaner they get.
Oh yeah.
But I mean, I remember some of the comb, when the bees make shorter stuff just for honey, it was 3 or 4 inches wide.
Wow.
And and those 5 feet, you couldn't tell if it was a swarm or a colony because you couldn't see the comb through all the bees. It was very, very impressive. I had fun with that. That was
I don't think
actually
we could.
the first time I ever tried my version of the bee vacuum, which was an utter disaster, but that's another story.
That's what that one was.
I don't think we can grow a colony quite that big here in the Midwest, Tony. I mean, you guys have a little longer season than us, and now I haven't been doing cutouts for years and years like some other guys, and Melissa and I probably only do, I'm gonna say maybe 25.
Yeah, between 20 and 25
per year. That's not my full-time job, but I'd say the biggest one that I ever did was probably that 10 pounds, I would say, which was still pretty sizable. But that's huge. What you're talking about is that's huge. That's intimidating.
I thought I'd lost the pictures, and a year or so ago I found them and I lost them again. But yeah, if I can find them, I'll pass them on. It was incredible. But with that groundhog, I'd like to. Yeah, definitely, I'd like to see the video. And then, what language do you talk to the groundhog to get his weather prediction?
Good question.
Actually, Tony, I'm a lot better with animals than I am with people.
Well, wake him up and we'll find out. What are you looking for?
I'm just seeing if you have any pictures.
You say with the groundhog, animals don't lie to you, and that's one thing I tell people with beekeeping. One thing I love about it is stupid hurts immediately, where most other things don't. With the weathermen, those guys are professional liars.
That's
They
right.
get promoted the more they lie.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, we're gonna have a cold front in 2 weeks. Watch out.
Yeah.
They're just trying to sell airtime.
That's right.
Groundhog, yeah, he'll tell you more of the truth.
Mm-hmm. He has nothing to lose, right?
Well, unless he's hunting you and trying to catch you, animals are just honest.
True.
So, I was just having a conversation yesterday with a guy here, and this coming week, it's going to be touching 80 degrees most of the week, and it cools off a little bit, I think, next week. But we're both thinking it might be an early spring for us. It'll be nice. We'll see.
Yeah.
I'm trying a different approach with my bees this spring. Okay, if I can do a pet bee,
My
a little one.
my
Some people,
red maples say that we're about 10 days away from bloom. I looked them over pretty close today. And their buds are starting to swell up pretty good. I'd say 10 days if we get some warm weather. We'll have a little flow starting in good old Yankee land, Southern Illinois.
Hmm.
oh,
And I seen
like I
2
said,
dandelions today, but they're about drowned out. I've got water every place from that snow melting.
Yep. Same here. So Highland Honey asked a question about if we do repairs afterwards as well, or just the cutouts. I try to do as little as I need to, if I'm being honest. But no, I will come back and do the repairs unless it's a couple different things. One, if it's roofing, but we'll get that scheduled at the time that I'm doing the cutout to have that done immediately. For one, if it's drywall, mudding, and taping or painting, I don't do that. I'll do the drywall repair itself. From the outside, if it's vinyl siding or James Hardy board, something like that, I'll do the repairs on that. Again, if any touch-up painting needs to be done, they can hire somebody else. And I always hash that out ahead of time. Everything is very, very clear from the get-go when I talk about how I'm going to gain access the easiest way. That's usually the most cost-effective. And so everything is worked out on the front side when I do that. So it's very, very clear line. And if somebody doesn't have their own handyman to do the necessary repairs, I can refer somebody to them, which happens to be one of the board members for the EMBA. Her husband is a contractor. So I've got some friends in the field, so we can figure that out and get somebody that's trustworthy to help out with that. So, but that's how I do it.
I'm with Tom on this, but I'm a little more direct. I told them I am Tony the Destroyer. I am not the person you want. If you paid me anything to do repairs, you already paid me too much. If it's just the board that I just need to nail back on, sure.
Yeah.
But if you want anything to look nice, I'm not the guy for that. So I set the expectations at the sub basement, and then we're good.
Yep. Good call.
You don't replace the brick veneer walls if the cutout is behind the brick veneer. Then is that what you're saying?
If it's behind brick veneer, I don't do it.
Yeah. Same
I
here.
don't want to work that hard.
That's usually the case when they call me. It's behind the brick veneer wall, or
Yes.
What's funny for me is, I do most of my removal. Either I do them for free or I'll charge a couple $100. When I see those like the brick veneer, like, it's going to be a $500 or $1,000 job, and I don't want to charge that much, and I don't want to get into fighting bricks and other big details. But even when I quote people $250, they balk at me. I'll refer them to my buddy Kenny up the road who does this professionally, and he'll quote them $1,700, and they're like, "Okay, great, they'll do that." I can't get people to pay $200, $250, and he's getting $1,700. I don't know how that works.
Yeah.
But okay, that's okay. I don't want to be a professional removal guy. I've got too much gray hair for that.
We've got them around here that tell you, well, you're going to get free bees.
yeah, that's what most of my good local farm folks, they think the bees, if you go catch a swarm or do a cutout, that the bees ought to be enough to pay for it.
And they want the honey.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm usually trying to. Go ahead, Tony.
Oh no, go ahead.
I was going to say I usually try the honey inside the colony as long as I know it hasn't been sprayed with the pesticide. If if I get any indicators of spray or anything like that, I don't even save the comb. And everything that I bring back, it's quarantined. I don't put anything in my own bee yard. It goes to a quarantine yard and it stays there for a period of time until I feel it's safe, or I've requeened it, or I've got things how I want them. As far as that goes, I don't bring anything in. So, but I've actually tasted some pretty good honeys come out of different areas, though. You know, it's I don't know, it's pretty nice.
Well, if it didn't have rat poison in it, it wouldn't hurt you.
I know a guy that eats Hive Alive fondant patties.
No, not Hive Alive.
No, not Hive Alive. Matt's fondant patties.
Yeah. It tastes just like taffy. It's good. I ate about. I'm telling you the God's truth.
Do you need more of it?
I probably lied about eating 2 pounds of it, but I probably eat a quarter of a pound of it while I was trying to get it transferred into smaller packages.
Do you need more of it, or are you in good shape?
That's why he's seeing Bigfoot running around everywhere.
That's
and
right.
groundhogs sleeping.
That's
in
right.
Hey, I've tried
goes to
that
see a
Hive Alive.
movie.
You get it in your mouth, it burns, and it's that thymol. It won't kill you, but it'll make you wish you had some mouthwash or something to get it out of your mouth.
When he goes into a movie, he'll sneak some in his jacket pocket so he can munch on it during the movie.
Yeah.
Hey, Highland Honey brought up a good little comment up here, Joey. It said, like, I think it was back for the comments we had earlier, like telling your lawn guy he gets free grass
We're gonna
clippings.
keep cooking on it. Somebody.
It's not me. Not me. Must be
Me and
Lee.
Lee. Yeah.
Yeah, like telling your lawn guy gets free grass clippings. Right. Yeah. There's no thing as freebies. You know what's interesting, you know, kind of going back to that, we don't have any problems here in St. Louis. And it could be that, you know, different areas, different markets, you know, all that stuff can play a role into that, as far as what people might or might not get. Because I've had people ask me before, we've done a couple of presentations in the past on cutouts and things of that nature, the details, how I do it, expectations, and all this thing. And the one thing that I always leave out is cost for a reason. And that's the one question people always ask is, what do you charge? And my answer is always this. I'm like, well, it doesn't really matter what I charge. You know, every market is different for one. And I said, there's a lot of variables. I said, every business doesn't have the same operating costs, you know. And I said, so for me to tell you what the cost would be kind of irrelevant. You'd have to figure out what your own cost would be based upon what you want per hour plus your own overhead expenses and such, you know, which probably are going to be fairly minimal, but nonetheless. So I always think that's pretty interesting. But we don't usually have a problem getting. One person want you to do it for the free. Yeah, I had one person ask me before. She almost seemed offended when I told her. I start off pretty quickly with finding out and understanding the situation, and then I pretty quickly let them know that there's a cost associated with it. And I usually send over my fee schedule, what that is. And I just don't want to get into some long half an hour conversation when it's not going to be something that we can handle or we're going to handle. So money is a good way to usually shut those people down. But again, I don't usually have a problem. And one lady in particular had an issue, and she said, you're going to charge for this? And I said, absolutely. And she says, you won't do it for the freebies? And I said, no, ma'am. I said, there's no such thing as freebies. And I had to briefly explain to her, I said, do you go to work for free? I'm like, I don't. And I said, I've got thousands of dollars worth of tools that help me gain access and repair the space in which we need to go into, you know, one of which is a specialized vacuum. And, you know, and I said, no, I said, I won't do it for free. You know, I have 175 counties of which I can make splits off of them as many times as I want to. And, you know, and increase that times 2 if I'd like. So, I don't know. It's always interesting. Everybody's idea of what they'll pay for is different. I've actually had people tell me before, I had a situation, a beautiful home, in a very, very nice neighborhood in St. Louis that was probably over $3 million. and very, very nice folks. And we thought they were in one area and ended up having to gain access into a different area because where they were coming in to where they were going. And anyway, before I cut into a different area of this adjoining wall, I went out to find the homeowner and told him, and he said, Tom, he goes, here's the deal. He said, you do what you have to do to remove those bees out of my house. And at the end of this, when you're all done, you tell me what the cost is, and that's what I'll pay you. I said, fair enough. No problem. Not every customer's like that, but this couple guys in particular I can think of this year that we did them for said, I don't care what the cost is. My wife wants them gone. So do I. You know what you're doing. Handle it and tell me what the cost is. So every area is a little different. Everybody has a different idea of what the value of that is too.
I get that question all the time as well as to how do you charge? And I tell people when you begin, charge nothing and you're still overpricing your work because you don't know what you're doing. As you get better, I split things just completely binary. A lot of removals I do are no charge. It's someone living in a trailer home, older widow. I'm not going to charge them. If it's someone who can afford, then I try to target. I try to target like $100 an hour. It always takes me twice as long as I thought, or 3 times. But that's if you consider your time and sweat, and of course down here we're dealing with the heat and your equipment and so forth. That's not an unreasonable number. I know people who are at 2 or 3 times that number. It just depends on the situation.
That's right.
I have a friend that part of his formula for pricing includes so many dollars per foot he has to go up the ladder. He doesn't like ladders. Okay, make it.
Doesn't seem unreasonable to me.
Yeah. Or actually, we're joking because we needed a calculator or like a spreadsheet because how many stairs up the ladder, and then what is the outside temperature? What is the value of the home? You have this whole spreadsheet that'll give you what your prices are.
Yeah.
Yeah, Flower Street's exactly right. It's way too many times I've heard the term people will blackmail you. Well, if you don't take these bees, I'm just going to spray and kill them. And that's a terrorist threat.
Yeah, right.
If that's their choice, you're going to get stung up and you probably won't kill them, but good luck. That's my only reaction anymore.
Joey, the picture down there is Gary Stewart just sent that to me. He sent me a couple of pictures of a open air colony that I guess he worked on.
You need me to pull it up?
Yeah. So there in the corner there, you can see his open air colony. And then he had, yes, this is all the bees that he got out of that.
Yeah, that's similar to the first bee vacuum that I created. Had something similar to that, Tony.
Yeah. I think it was I want to say the beam vacuum, but it was the Brushy Mountain that used to make it.
Yeah.
They disappeared.
Now, Brushy Mountain's been out of business for some time. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Yep.
Seems like maybe 4 or 6 years. Yeah, it's been a while. I think they tried to expand too quickly and it imploded.
I think you got a hacker there, Joey. You might want to. Yeah. I'm trying to get rid of him, but I can't.
Uh-oh.
He gone.
Okay.
Wow. Life's not good for some people, I guess, huh?
Yeah.
Oh, something I started saying earlier. One of my pet peeves is people who, when they go to feed their bees, they give them 1 quart of sugar water. And my reaction is, that's like telling someone, hey, you're going to have a steak dinner, and here's 1 bite. Or here's 1 Dorito chip. let me just slap you and take the bag.
That's right.
And I used to feed a gallon at a time, and they would suck that down within the day. Today, when I was running around, I only use mediums because it's cheaper than back surgery.
That's right.
And with every colony, I try to have two feeders, one feeder in two different boxes.
Hmm.
And medium for feeders, a gallon, 2 frames wide.
Hmm.
I just fill up both feeders, give them 2 gallons. Within 2 days, as long as it's warmer weather, they will have that all pulled out and stored up in frames. And versus going to the yard 8 times to feed them 1 quart. Here's your 2 gallons, girls. I'll see you in a month or so. It's so much easier because I've got, gosh, 25 yards.
He
And if I
said
had
that
2 yards, it wouldn't matter.
open air colony was in West Virginia, Morgantown, West Virginia.
Yeah, Gary, that would be weighing on my mind pretty heavy too. If you have a power line under the lift bucket, which they're all metal with the metal outriggers and such. So yeah, that would be that would make it more interesting.
When I've gone with electrical company, their buckets, I believe, are fiberglass.
I'm guessing
Versus
it's the
company.
one that he had.
Yeah, the one he had was a metal
Yeah, the one that
platform.
Gary had. Yeah. But yes, you're right, Tony. They are fiberglass. But I think often they use a fiberglass pole too, don't they, or something of the sorts on those? For sure, the
No,
buckets
they're always steel.
are they?
It's a hydraulic cylinder, so that's all steel.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, doing the cutouts has its own interesting dynamic to it. I feel like I learn a lot from watching the bees kind of do their own thing. And I would say in the wild, even though it's in a structure, it's still kind of, other than the space itself, it's still kind of bees doing what they want, how they want, based upon the space that they have or the space that they have occupied. I always like seeing how big the entrances are, which side they're facing, if they're always on a certain area, what kind of cover they have, that, just all the different parameters around each, and just kind of help me to understand how that the bees are doing it themselves, without any person's intervention in that. This is probably one of the main reasons why I actually started to leave my entrance reducers in, and I use all 8-frame double deep management, Tony. And I leave the entrance reducers in all of mine, and on that setting that's about 2.5, 3 inches long. And I leave it in, the entire season. Now, for reference, I'm in St. Louis, Missouri. So we get the hot of the hot, the cold of the cold, wet of the wet, dry of the dry. We are kind of the melting pot of, North America. We get everybody's crap and everybody's good stuff, right? So seasons are constantly changing. If you don't like today's weather, just wait till tomorrow, because it'll probably be different. We have 4 very distinct and clear seasons, though, which is kind of the beauty of our area, I guess. If you don't like one type of weather too long, just wait a little bit and it'll probably change on you. But the thing that I've always noticed is the fact that how bees, they don't usually have a large entrance. It's usually relatively small. And I started leaving our entrance reducers in, just for my own, and I've never had a problem with it. So again, just different things that I see the bees doing, to help me understand how that they like things, is kind of what it boils down to. Yeah, Tom.
I'm actually teaching.
Sorry, Tony.
I'm actually teaching a class next month. It's March 1st, actually, at the Central Texas Bee School, where I'm going to be talking about a Langstroth top entrance versus the bottom entrance. I don't know if you ever read, oh gosh, what was the book called? The guy's up in Nebraska, The Practical Beekeeper.
Mm-hmm.
What's his name? Really sharp guy. Anyways, one of the things that he talks about is he redesigned got rid of the bottom entrance altogether, just has a piece of plywood, and then puts two those 15-inch long shims for like door shims.
Mm-hmm.
So top is another piece of plywood, a shim on each side. So the front of the hive just has this 3/8 inch gap. Uh, it is the width of the box, but and I've actually evolved it. I'm actually trying to get a patent on my latest version of that. But the top entrance, in my opinion, the Achilles heel, the elephant in the room for a length drop design is the bottom entrance the way it's made. It's way too tall. It is way too wide.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and we have to invent all these things to. It's like one of these things where I've got a nail through my foot, and I'm applying creams, and I'm taking aspirin, and I've got a ice pack on my forehead, but I'm not doing anything about the nail. That bottom entrance is the nail of in the Langstroth.
Yeah.
So it's one of my many sermons.
Yeah. No, I get that. I understand that.
So yeah, and so reducing it, you still have 90% of the problems. My personal favorite is you got to get your level out and get that tilt just right, otherwise you have a pool of water. Uh, with my top entrances, I have no issues with that at all.
Hmm.
Um, and skunks aren't a problem, and I don't need queen excluders. Here's I'll just use the queen excluder for some fun, just to chat for a minute. What happens is this: we make a 14-inch wide, 3/8 inch high entrance. We paint that bottom board white because it rots too fast. Um, we aim it south so the sun comes in, hits that board, and reflects up into all of that brood comb. Okay, Melissa, sounds like you're having fun with this.
No,
Well, she must be.
I'm reading the comments.
Oh,
I'm trying to figure
okay.
out probably what's going on and listen to Tony at the same time, and I'm not sure I can do both.
I've
Carry on.
been,
So if there's something, I can't see the comments with this window, so let me know if you see something. But so what happens? The queen sees this. She puts on her sunglasses and says, "Oh heck no! I don't want my brood down here." And she starts going up. And so we had to make the queen excluder to stop her from doing that.
Mhm.
Well, also we put that entrance down there because she wants a quiet, low traffic area. So every drop of nectar has to walk through her brood area.
Mhm.
When robbers come through, we hate when robbers kill your queen because she's in the way between the entrance and the honey up top. Um, all of these problems are caused by the wrong size entrance in the wrong location.
Hmm.
Uh,
That's interesting.
Anyways, I've got an hour-long talk. I'm not going to do it all at this point, but it's just a sampling of the discussion. And it's also way too expensive. That bottom board is, what is it, 4 pieces,
Mm-hmm.
usually,
Usually.
sometimes 5.
Mm-hmm.
And then if you have a telescoping cover, 5 pieces for the inner cover, 5 pieces for your telescoping cover. Even if it's a migratory cover, that's 3 boards. Um, the way I do my top entrance, there's 1 board for the bottom, there's 1 board for the top, and I don't even use shims.
Hmm.
Just a simpler, easier to make, lower cost, and the bees like it more, I think.
Now, what about when they're bringing pollen in? How does that work with that? Where are they storing the pollen at?
Well, the pollen they would have to take down to the brood area, but they're bringing in 10 times or 50 times more nectar than they're
Mm-hmm.
bringing in pollen.
I didn't know if maybe
Plus,
they would just store it sometimes up in your honey supers or not. So
no,
they'll keep it down in the brood.
yep, they'll always take it to your brood area.
Okay.
Yep. Another hip thing is, bees can fly. That's easy. when they're coming in the front door, if they're full of nectar, they're carrying the heavy weight going up.
Mm-hmm.
If the entrance is on top, it's a whole lot easier to carry heavy weight down. So I'm being loving and kind to my bees.
Yeah. That's interesting. Have you run any of those side by side, Tony, like with your traditional entrance on the Langstroth and then the new style that you run, just to kind of compare contrast?
From what I've seen, bees do better with the top entrance. Numerous reasons, including ventilation. So I'll
Mm-hmm.
put a small hole in my bottom board and it's screened over, but the air comes in and then your moisture rises, right?
Mm-hmm.
So my top entrance is the escape point for that moisture. Whereas with the Langstroth, you're putting coins in there and you're doing tricks where you offset your lid, which means it's going to blow off in the wind.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I don't have that issue. I've got a natural flow.
How large is the entrance that you use on the top on that sort of setup?
Well, I experimented with my bees, and I'm not insane. I listen to my bees, and they tell me what to do.
Mm-hmm.
What they told me they wanted was about 3/8 of an inch high and 4 to 5 inches wide. So that's my top entrance opening.
Okay. Now you had, if I remember right, and correct me if I'm wrong, where did I see you last? I didn't. You had a spot. Was it in Quincy?
Illinois.
Last year, Quincy, Illinois. Was that it?
Oh, yes.
That
Yes.
might be it. You had a couple new things you were working on. One of them was a 2-liter bottle, if I'm not mistaken, would screw into a feeder that had basically a little river system or a channel system in which the bees could get in. So you really had basically zero drowning. But if I remember right, and correct me if I'm wrong on this, is that where you were working with this top entrance and all that, or a different type of
I had a top entrance there as well. So
Okay.
that feeder system, it just never, it didn't really have any popularity. It just
No.
didn't go anywhere. Yeah, people don't want to buy things. Okay, I can hear that message.
Yeah.
But I also had one of my prototype top entrances there. I don't know if you remember looking at it or not. Next
I
time we get
feel like
together,
I
I can show you
did, but
again. But
I feel like I did, but I can't specifically remember it, honestly. Do you have that on your website or anything?
no, I don't.
No.
Does this ring a bell? The end, one of the really patent-worthy features of my design is that top entrance. It's built into the cover, and when I want to move a hive,
Mm-hmm.
I take that at the top board, lift it a 1/4 inch, slide it back 2 inches, put it back down, and my entrance is now closed. Because the entrance, my my top extended a couple inches past the front of the hive. So that was another feature. If it's raining, the bees have a covered porch.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if that rings a bell at all.
I feel like I remember you saying this. The first thing you talked about, where you said you can pick up your cover and move it back, and then when you drop it back down, it close. In my mind though, I can't see it, but I remember you having that there. I just can't remember what it looked like, honestly. But I
Yeah,
think
that
you're
earlier
playing around with
prototype,
it
I
then.
just had some big fat headed screws as my catches in the corners.
Okay. That's interesting. Sometimes it's really hard to make changes with beekeeping because when somebody gets an idea down and it works for them, that can be a really hard thing to do. It's almost a couple things have to happen. Somebody either has to try it and they have success with it or better success, or you get somebody that has a lot of respect in a beekeeping community or a community and they do it and then everybody's like, oh, I got to have that, right? That's usually one of the two things.
So let me pick your mind on this, and Joey and everyone. I have way too many pet peeves. This is like a therapy session for me. I joke with people that I hate wooden hive bodies. Everything I have is wooden, but it's like I can sit there and watch with my stopwatch running to see how quickly they rot out and fall apart,
Yeah.
even with 400 coats of paint. But I hate wood almost as much as I hate plastic. Because if anyone's ever owned an RV, there's a color, in RVs when they come, they're beautiful white and all this and that. But after 5 years, there's this color they invented called RV yellow.
Yeah.
And every piece of plastic in your RV turns yellow, gets brittle, and just breaks and falls apart.
Mhm.
Well, all these plastic hives out there, and I, according to styrofoam ones, like a moose chews through everything chews through styrofoam. That makes no sense at all to me. But the plastic ones, it's just a matter of how many years before they go brittle and fall apart. Um, and yet people are paying $100 a box for those things, which is just crazy to me. What am I missing? You tell me.
Yeah, I'm not sure. Marketing always plays a big role in something. When something looks really flashy and you have a lot of cool pictures, that always helps to sell something, regardless whether it's a good product or a bad product. Um, I don't know. I don't know the answer to that exactly. Tony, I don't know if you can see it or not, but there's a question that's been up from Beekeeping Bro. How did you figure out the number for the entrance? I'm thinking they're looking for the size.
Oh, so I asked the bees. So I started with right. So I
Yeah.
started with just actually started with two 1-inch openings, and I had massive bearding. Keep in mind, I'm in a Texas 100-degree days out in the
Mm-hmm.
sun, and so I started widening the entrance until they stopped bearding.
Mm-hmm.
And when I got to that size, they were happy. So, my buddy says always listen to the voices in your tackle box. I tell people listen to the voices in your beehives.
I guess I never really viewed bearding as a bad thing, because when they're bearding, it's hot. And in St. Louis, particularly when it's hot, any of that forage that's been around for the most part has gone away, which I view that as basically now you have all the workforce out there that you don't need, because there's really very little for them to do, just hanging out on the front porch and telling stories or what have you. So I never really viewed it as a bad thing, because people would always, when they see bearding, and I would say probably more new beekeepers than experienced ones, people freak out because they're like, oh my gosh, are my bees absconding, or are they getting ready to swarm? What should I do? They should not be bearding. And my thought is, I don't see a problem with it. You have a bunch of forager bees that don't need to be in the hive, creating excess heat, um, and being in the way. They have very little to do, because they all go out and they're checking and realize there's just not much for them to do right now. So they're just hanging out at that point in time. Some of which, not all of them, will be fanning at the entrance, bringing air in. So I don't know. I never really viewed it as a problem. So, because one of always the number one rule is there's not enough ventilation in a hive. You need to have this, that, and the other. You need to prop the top. You need to open the entrance up. You need to take out the reducer. That's the problem you see. And, again, my question has always been, who cares if they're hanging out front? What purpose do they serve actually being inside the hive that them being outside causes a problem? And my thought is none, because they're forager bees. They don't have anything to do with inside the colony. There's nothing for them to collect. So I don't know. That's always been my approach and my thought process on it.
Our old mentor, he used to talk about that all the time. He said they have no purpose inside. They're field bees.
Yeah.
Unless it comes a storm, they're gonna hang out outside.
Yeah.
Well, if it's storming and they're outside, it's going to kill a lot of the bees.
Yeah.
And Philip, I'll get to your question in a second. Um, but to answer that, your question of what difference does it make, what the bees are telling you is they are uncomfortable. They're not happy. If they're outside, they would rather be inside the hive. You would agree with that,
If it's
correct?
storming, yeah.
Well, even if it's not storming, on a regular day, if you've got a strong field force, but there's no nectar to get, they would rather be in the hive, smelling mama's pheromones and telling each other stories. So when they start bearding, that's the first step towards them swarming. When your bees aren't happy, that's when they're going to swarm. If I modify my entrance to where they can all be inside the hive and comfortable, and I've had hives where, when I went from the 1 inch to the 5 inch opening, um, it was immediate from one day to the next. From a big beard of, 4 or 5,000 bees to no one outside. It was that dramatic.
Hmm.
And like I said, it. I joke. I always try to make my bees happy. They're Africanized, so they're always mean.
Yeah, they're always
It's a love
mad.
hate love. Well, I joke that here, if I can preach for a second, I have a love hate love relationship with my bees. I love my bees. Most people don't understand it because I probably take 1,000 or so stings a year, but it's actually good for me. I love my bees. They hate me with a deep, deep seated passion. In fact, remind me later, I'll tell you a story of what I call a 59er. However, their hatred for me is a redirection. They love their hive so much that they'll give their life to drive me away and protect the hive,
Mhm.
which isn't that the story of Christ? He gave his
It
life for
absolutely is.
us. So it's a love hate love relationship. I understand it. Most people don't, but that's okay.
Yeah. Hey, do you have a way to get maybe Joey or somebody a picture of what that looks like, or a place they can go online to look at it? People asking about
um,
what that looks like.
yeah. So I do have a picture. I don't know how I would get it to you, Joey. I can describe it to you fairly well, though. So, okay. So my top board is a 3/4 inch piece. Don't use plywood, either HDO or Advantech.
Hmm.
And then, so imagine looking at the hive from the side. The top is flush on the back, and over the front, it extends a couple inches. So you've got this covered porch area.
Hmm.
If you look at that porch area, on one side, I've got about 1.5 inch hole that's got a screen on top of it. Matter of fact, it's the same little screen that I use on top of the bee vacuums.
Hmm.
And that's there so that when I slide this cover back, that's a vent point. So there's
Oh, I
some
see.
airflow, right? Because I've got one of those in the bottom as well.
Hmm.
In fact, a couple of years ago, my sister-in-law wanted to get in the bees, and I took 3 hives from here, took a day and a half to drive up to Northwest Indiana, and those 3 counties did great. Had a couple straps on them, had that top bottom airflow, and they were grumpy when we got there, but they didn't have any losses. Um, so at one side I've got this, we'll call it a skylight, and then come over and cut into the bottom of the board is a couple inch wide and 3/8 inch deep. And you can do it with the router. There's a bunch of ways to do this. Um, and imagine I'm looking straight up at this opening.
Hmm.
It's 5 inches across, a couple inches wide, about 3/8 inch deep. And so the bees will fly, they land against the front of the hive,
Hmm.
they will climb up into that cavity and then down into the hive. And this cavity area is maybe an inch or so from the front edge. So when I slide the board back, that entrance is now closed.
Okay.
Does that make
So,
sense?
yeah. So just for clarification, you're not modifying any boxes. The only entrance is
Exactly.
built into, because it's a cavity that's built into the 3/4 inch material, which might be an HDO, Advantech subfloor material, what have you, that it actually gets into there by 3/8. So you're taking half of the material out of your top cover to use that as an entrance. So they're just climbing up and over the top entrance of the box itself.
Exactly. Exactly.
Okay, so and because the entrance is only about an inch or so wide, when you pick that cover up and slide it back and remove the porch, you can now close up the colony, but you also have a vent that is screened in there in case you need to move it or for whatever reason you'd want to close it up.
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly.
I seem to remember that now. It seemed like you had the one that prototype that you had done. And again, correct me if I'm wrong here. Did you do it with like a dado blade or something at the time?
Exactly. Yep.
Okay, I remember that
So
now.
it's shallow at the front, deepest in the middle, shallow at the back.
That's right. Yep, I seem to remember that now.
Yep. And the one, if you remember, I'm not sure if I had it in Illinois. It's a 3/4 inch board, and then I had actually a piece of foam board, and I had aluminum over the top of that. So it was actually an insulated
Okay,
top cover.
I got you.
I'm not sure if I love the insulation as much anymore, but it's one of those things you adapt.
So, Tony, just for reference, so people know, you're in the southern part of Texas. Is that right?
Middle.
Central. So I'm
Central.
like 30 miles south of Austin, east and north of San Antonio.
Okay. And then, so what do you see as far as your wintertime low temperatures?
Normally we'll have a few days, maybe a week's worth of below freezing temperatures. With my design, which is not that different than what I can't remember his name, the guy that wrote The Practical Beekeeper, Michael Bush. He's up in Nebraska, and he has pretty much the same design, just a different implementation.
Yeah.
And he doesn't have any problem. I've heard so many people say, "Oh, you lose all your heat that way." Not really. And with the way mine works, because it's a cavity going up, even with hurricane force winds and a heavier top, the top doesn't blow off.
Mm-hmm.
When I first did this, I was always putting bricks on top. Now I don't put anything on top of the lids,
Okay.
and it literally takes hurricane force winds to knock them loose.
Well,
I
as we see,
thought I had a picture of that lid, but I can't find it. I thought I took one when you were down in Slidell year before last. I don't see it on my phone.
Oh, where's my phone?
hey,
Hang on a second.
Tony, Philip asked,
Yeah.
how wide is the groove? Hang tight, Philip. He's on a mission.
All right. Sorry about that. Okay. So the groove is about 5 inches wide, and front to back, it's about 2 inches or so deep.
Okay.
But yeah, the width is what really matters to the bees. I don't know how to share this, but I'm going to try and put this in front of using the old man low tech version of. I'm going to find that picture on my phone.
If you hold that when you hold the picture, when you hold that picture, your phone up to the camera on your laptop or what have you, tilt it at an angle, because when you hold it straight on, for whatever reason, the camera won't pick it up.
There you had it.
All right, let's see. Oh, darn it. Okay. Let's see.
Okay, there you go. Yep, perfect view. We got it now.
So, yep,
Yep.
this is the one with the insulation. So you can see off on your left, you see the hole, that's the ventilation.
Yep.
And then where the paint doesn't exist, that's my dado blade cuts.
Yep.
And another thing I did on this one, and this is just makes sense to me. Bees want it dark inside the hive. How can we paint stuff white? White's going to reflect light. So like on that board, you saw a dark color inside. It just makes sense to me. But hopefully, I don't see the comments. Let me go over here. Did that answer the question in terms of what it looks like?
Yeah. Philip says
He
thank
said-
you.
He said thanks. So I guess he
Okay,
got it.
great. Yep.
All Well, if you want to answer another question, Beekeeping Bro, I don't know if you monitor this or not, but it says, what is your highest humidity? I'm assuming that means in your area, probably not inside the hive, but maybe you know.
So where I am, Central Texas, in the springtime, it's miserable. I used to live in South Florida way back in when Hurricane Andrew hit, I left, so it was the 90s. But so compared to that, this is great. In the heat of summer, we tend to be drier, so it might be, I don't know, 30% or so. Um, but there's times when, yeah, with the rain, that humidity just zooms right on up.
Mm-hmm.
The uh, I don't know that humidity is going to have a. I have seen one study that showed as the humidity goes up, you get less of the natural convection of heat in the hive.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but if you have a top and bottom, at least at nighttime when it cools off, you'll get that convection. And having airflow top and bottom, if air's going to move in any direction, that's the only way you're going to get it to happen.
Mm-hmm. So now you don't have any type of screened entrance on the bottom board whatsoever. That's how you're talking about the convection. You're saying that when the
Correct.
air is not as heavy, it's allowed to kind of pull itself out of the hive naturally.
Right. So hang on, let me argue with my computer again. So if you're looking at, hang on. So you can see that. So
Uh-huh.
that's the hole with the screen over the top. I
Mm-hmm.
have a matching hole in a corner in the bottom for the air to come in.
Oh, okay.
And a second
Okay.
thing I was going to mention is this is the older version, but you see the screw heads, there's one here and up here.
Right.
Those catch the inside corner of the hive body,
Mm-hmm.
so that'll keep your lid from moving on you.
Okay.
And that was my more primitive version, my earlier designs, but just
And
a little knot that keeps it from moving is very helpful.
yeah, and you're not using any cleats on the front or the back of that your upper cover to square it up on the box in whatever way, shape, or form. The only thing that you have is just those two screw heads that offer a little bit of like a, I don't want to say a detent, but for lack of a better term.
It's a resist point, and you can do that in all four corners. And there's two of them. One is for the normal open position. The other screw is there for when you slide it back to hold it in that position, in the lock position, the no escape position.
Mm-hmm. Did we miss any questions in there, Joey?
I don't see anything we missed.
So let me comment on what Gary wrote. He said, in summer, due to robbing, I don't want an upper entrance. Bees can get in and out. Sometimes use nickels under the lid, which gives you airspace. Keep in mind, Gary, this is the only entrance. I think you're talking about if you have two separate entrances, they don't tend to defend both. But if there's only a single top entrance, the bees will defend that. If that makes sense.
Bob Benny talks a little bit about that. I've seen him in the past where if he wants to lighten the swarming pressure in the springtime, he will sometimes offset boxes, which probably, like Gary is saying, you could nickel, or I've heard people talk about popsicle sticks, whatever you want to use, right? To create just enough of a gap where it's big enough that the bees won't try to propolis it right away. Well,
We used
Tony,
to
I'll
use
say I
pennies, but
think
with inflation. I was like, we used to use pennies, but with inflation, it's now a nickel.
Yeah.
true
I'm sorry, go
that.
ahead.
You're absolutely right. Well, Tony, I think what you're talking about is pretty interesting. I don't claim to have any or all the answers. I try things and see how they work, and I view the results with my own eyes and what I think is working or not. I'd be curious to know if anybody else actually uses that type of setup and what have you. Because if you really think about it, you could, with your entire equipment cost, you would be able to lower that, because first of all, bottom boards, I don't care if you're using screen, solid, whatever, they're not cheap, right? Then of course you need some type of an entrance reducer usually. You use a telescoping cover, and that's usually an inner cover and a telescoping cover. So that obviously is not cheap. So, I mean, for somebody wanting to cut costs and minimalize or be kind of have that minimal type of footprint on any type of woodenware, this could be an opportunity or a way for them to try something like that out,
And this is where, and I've been trying to get some traction with the top entrance, but it's so novel, so different than everyone used to traditional bottom entrance.
Yeah.
It takes a tremendous amount of education um, for them to even be willing to try it. But
Mm-hmm.
everything I've played with it, vastly superior.
Hmm.
And I'll tell you the number. Remember when I was complaining before about how you can time how fast wood rots? The fast, and tell me guys if you see the same thing. Your bottom boards are the first thing to rot out on your hive.
Yep,
Do you
usually.
agree?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Um, with the top entrance, that's no longer true because my bottom board's the same size as my boxes. It's now I do get more debris on the bottom board because the bees don't have to clean it out.
Mm-hmm.
But I'll go maybe once a year, twice a year if I'm feeling good, and go clean off that bottom board. I argue this: if it's messy and it's bothering the bees, they will clean it up. I don't live there; they do.
Mm-hmm.
That's what David was asking there. If they
Oh yeah,
take the dead bees out the top.
yeah, yeah. In fact, you'll get a chuckle out of this. So this is a picture from today. I thought it was. Oh, come on. I can find this picture. So this was I'll show you. I'll zoom out first. So this is a picture of a hive. And I'll zoom in more. So you see it's the bottom box, and you see my bottom board is just a bottom flat board. But what I want to show you is this.
Taking care of Tom the last 2 days.
So this is a beetle that had climbed down into the hive, and I'm not sure if it jammed itself in there, but the bees killed it and just propolized it in place.
Huh.
So it was a buried fossil. But yeah, they'll take dead bees or debris or whatever they want out the top entrance, just like they take it out of the bottom. It's just the bottom board tends to collect more junk just because. Oh, and another big fee. Okay, I've got two arguments on this, and you hear my both sides. I think the top entrance is better for small hive beetle problems as well. And let me make my case. So your small hive beetle come in, the larvae, make messes, drop to the bottom board, crawl out, fall on the ground, and pupate, right?
Mm-hmm.
In my hive, they fall to the bottom of my hive. They are inside, and there is nowhere for them to escape. So they're stuck in the bottom of the hive, and either they can pupate in that bottom area, which I don't think is going to happen, but they can't get out and get to the ground. I don't think they climb out and find my entrance and go out.
Huh.
Now, the other side of it is my bees are really mean, and I've never had a small hive beetle problem because I joke my bees have a real simple philosophy. If it comes in the front door, it's a binary choice. Either it's one of the sisters and it's invited in, or they kill it. It doesn't matter if it's a small hive beetle, a wasp, a yellow jacket, or whatever, or me. Anything that comes in the front door, they kill it. So, did that make sense in terms of there's no exit for small hive beetles?
Yeah. Well, obviously they haven't killed you yet. You're still here talking to
That's
us.
right. So,
Well, we've been on right at 2 hours, y'all. I think since I didn't get a whole lot of sleep the last couple of nights, I'm go ahead and shut the chat down. Appreciate everybody coming in the chat over there, and appreciate Tony coming in.
It's a
Very
pleasure.
interesting conversation.
I get to
Yeah.
share some of my wild ideas.
Melissa, do you have anything to say before we go?
Well, no,
Oh gosh.
I
we go.
just I would really like to see everybody this coming weekend
Oh,
here in St. Louis at the Eastern Missouri Beekeepers Association's workshop. We'll be having all kinds of awesome raffles. This is one from Apis Tactical.
Who wants these?
Some gloves. We've got some extractors to raffle off. We've got Hive Live fondant to raffle off. All kinds of good stuff.
When your wife puts this on her hand and smacks you,
Uh-huh.
it doesn't leave a mark.
Oh yeah.
No, yeah, but there's like 30-ish tickets left for the experienced beekeepers class. So if anybody wants to make a trip to St. Louis this weekend, it's going to be in the
There you
in
go.
the 50s, I think. So we're going to have decent weather. It's not going to be cold. It might be a little bit rainy, I think, maybe a little bit on Saturday, but you'll be inside enjoying beekeeping chat. So
But we want everybody to come out Friday night so we can enjoy the dinner together.
yes.
That is the networking time right there. JW will be signing autographs, and him and Boz will be singing duets. I'm gonna see if he'll sign my hat.
Yeah.
As soon as we get done
It's not-
politicking for the Eastern Missouri one, then Brian can take over the politicking for the one in Colorado.
Hey,
There's the Sasquatch. It's the baby Sasquatch you pull out from underneath of the cooler. Oh boy.
all right. I'm gonna say good night to everybody.
Night, everybody.
night, y'all.
Hang in there, Tony. Don't go nowhere just yet.
Okay.